Well, it all started several years ago when I felt a calling to serve God in a bigger way than what I am now. And I always wanted to use the talents that God gave me, which are driving and talking with people. About 5 years ago, Hal Donaldson visited Central, and I talked to him a little bit about what they do, and it has a lot to do with trucking and with dealing with people. So I asked him about a position there, and he said most of their positions are volunteer. So I kind of figured, okay, well, if I wanted to move to Springfield, then I could move there, but then I'd have to get a full-time job, and I wouldn't have the time to do the volunteering, which I'd like. So the next year, Hal came again also with Jeff Neeney, which is a PR man for Convoy, and I cornered them both, and I asked them both about Convoy and their mission and what I could do there. And Jeff Neeney took my information, and I never did get back to him. So, and I kept feeling a calling towards there. So Shahan was here, which was a missionary that visited Central, and I asked him, I said, how do you know if it's actually a true calling you're getting or just a feeling that you think it's something you want to do? And he said, well, you'll see it right in front of you. He said it'll be right there. So that night I went home and I was on the computer looking at some things, and I went to Convoy of Hope's website, and I looked on there and I went to their careers, and it was right there, full-time truck driver. And I thought, wow, I thought this is great. And so I showed my wife, and I met all the qualifications that they had, and she's like, you should go for this. And then my daughter Kayla came down, and I showed her everything, and she said, this is what you've really been wanting. She said, I think you should go for it too. So I thought about it, and my insides were just shaking. It was just, I was so excited about the whole situation. So I went to work the next day, and on my way home I stopped at the church, and I talked to Beverly Small about it, and I also talked to Pastor Stephen. And he encouraged me and said, well, maybe you should fill this out and send it in. And we prayed together, and so I got everything. I faxed everything to them and sent them all the information they needed. And it was about 3 days later, I got a letter in the mail saying they received everything, and they checked over my qualifications, and they may get back to me for a phone interview, but if not, then that'd be the last I hear from them. So that evening I was out in the yard, and I was talking to the Lord. I said, you know, so many times I felt you calling me to do something, and I turn around at the last minute and I walk away. But if this is really what you want me to do, because they did tell me they had several hundred applications for this position, there's only one position. And I told the Lord, I said, if it makes it all the way down to me, then I'll submit to you and I'll do this. And so a week went by, and I got a phone call, and they asked me if I'd be interested in a phone interview, and I said, yeah. And so we had a phone interview, and he asked me about my experience and all my goals and what I want to do. And he said, talk it over with your wife. And he said the next thing would be a personal interview in Springfield. Would I be interested? I said, yeah. I said, that'd be fine. And he said, well, let us pray here about it. He said, then we'll get back to you. I said, okay. So it was about a week later, he calls me back, and he said, you ready for a road trip to Springfield? I said, yeah. I said, it'd be great. So my wife and I went down to Springfield, and I had an interview with them. It was about a 3-hour interview, and I thought it went very well. And we got a tour of the warehouse and their prayer room and the whole facility. And then they took us to lunch, and we left on Saturday to come back home again. And on Sunday I sent a thank you to everybody. Thank them for lunch, for the interviews, and showing us around. And so later on that afternoon I got a phone call from the PR person, and they needed some more information from me. And so I called her back and gave her the information. She said, we are going to offer you the position at this time. And I'm like, wow. I was like blown away over it. And so she sent me the information on the job. And so what I'll be doing there is I'm getting hired as a truck driver. So I'll be driving to the outreaches, I'll be driving to disasters as their first responders to disasters, and I'll also be hauling donations back to the warehouse for them. And the person whose position I'm taking is also the transportation manager, and so they're planning on me going in and taking that position also, which I will do if it's offered to me. And so I'll be a driver and fleet manager for Convoy of Hope, which is just totally exciting to me. It's like a dream come true. It's taken 5 years for all the doors to open for me to actually live my dream and my calling.